Let's review over some of the statistical graphs that we've worked with. The objective for this is I can graph data sets. So we'll look first of all at the types of graphs that we might see and how they are usually skewed one way, the other, or not skewed at all. So if we have a graph that kind of goes straight across, now it might have a little bit ups and downs along the way, but generally it goes straight across. We call that a uniform graph. So if we have categories that seem to be very much the same all the way across, then you've got a uniform graph. If you have a graph where there's a tail going to the left side, that's a left skewed graph. If you've got a graph that is symmetrical, where you have the same amount of data on both sides of the graph, we call that symmetrical. That's where the normal distribution falls in when we talk about the normal distribution. And then if you've got the tail going off to the right, that's called a right skewed graph. Now we want to take a look at the shape of data. So what I'd like to do is take a look at this data set and look how we could maybe plot the graph in several different ways. Let's do some calculation though of some of the statistics for this that we have for this data set. If you look at this, you want to calculate the median. The median means the middle of the graph. Remember, the mode is the most often repeated number. Here there's no repeated numbers, so there's no, the mode is every number. There is no mode really in this graph. The mean is where you would average them, but the median is where you go to the middle. And if there's a tie between different ones, like the same number, then you go ahead and average them. So we first of all count how many we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13 of them. And so if we go in 7 units in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, this would be your median because that is the middle number. There's 6 numbers on one side of it and there's 6 numbers on the other side of it. Now, to get the first quartile, you go with the lower half of numbers. So below the median, so these numbers over here, these 6, we're going to find what the median is of that lower half of numbers. Now, since there's 6 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're going to go to the middle 2 of them, these 2 here, and you're going to average them. So you're going to add those 2 together, and you're going to average them, and you're going to get 21.5 as the average of those 2 middle numbers. That's for the first quartile. Now we go to the top half, these 6 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to average these 2 middle numbers because there's 2 in the middle. Again, if there's an odd number, you just find the one in the middle. And so halfway between those 2 would be 52. So that's our third quartile, would be that there. The interquartile range is where you take the third quartile and you subtract off the first quartile. And so what you would get from that is you get 30.5 is our interquartile range. A pretty big one for this because this is a lot of data that's spread out quite a bit. All right, now a stem and leaf plot is a very standard way to look at data in a basic way. All it means is you're going to list the first digit of each of these. So we're going to list the 1, and there's a first digit of 2, there's a first digit of 3, first digit of 4, of 5, and of 6, and of 7. Those are the first digits listed in this data set. And now we're just going to list the second digit. So this would go with 8 and 9. The 20s would go with a 0, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 7. Okay, now notice it's a much bigger data set. The 3s would just go with a 4 and a 7. Our 4 would just go with a 9. And our 5 would go with another 5 for 55. 61 would just give us, after the 6 would be a 1, and 71 would also be a 1. So notice that this one's going to have a tail going in one direction because of it has a lot of numbers over on that side that go off in a large direction. So that would be a stem and leaf. Now a histogram, you would take these and you'd want to put them into buckets, okay? And you want to say, okay, let's go ahead and count maybe how many between each 10. So we're going to do, we'll have a 10 here, and then we'll go up to 20, then to 30, to 40, to 50, to 60, and have to go all the way out to 70 here. So you want those to be equal units. And notice the largest one here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 in the 20s. 4, 5. So between 10 and 20, now you want to count. Here's where it's a little different though. You want to go with the ones with the 1 here. You're going to count those as 2 of them. So between 10 and 20, there's 2. 20 goes up to the next one. So we'll count how many have a 2 to start off with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers in the 20s. So that's going to go all the way up here. Then when we get to the 30s, you're going to have 2 of them again. Just put a 2 there and a 5 up here. And then in the 50s, we have 1 of them. So, I'm sorry, 40s, we have 1 of them. For 50s, we have 1 of them. And for the 60s, we have 1 of them. And between 60 and 70 and 80, so we need to go all the way out here to 80, we've got another 1 here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we have here, notice that this gives us a shape where we can notice that this is going to be a right-tailed data set because it's got a tail of this data going off to the side. Helps us get to know that what the shape is of it. Let's go ahead and do the box and whisker next. Okay, to use the box and whisker, we're going to actually use the data that we calculated with the median and the first and third quartiles. So let's just list down here. Okay, let's start at 10 again. Go to 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. And I only need to go to 70 because this one's just above, the last number's just above 70. All right, and so what we're going to list is the box goes from the first quartile to the third quartile. So 21.5 is right about here. Create this edge of the box. And then the other one goes all the way up here. So it's a pretty big interquartile range there to form that box. The median goes right, where we put the median goes right here. Notice that median's is way over to this side because we have a lot of data pulling out to the right skewed data set. And then we put the mins and maxes off to the side. So the minimum here is 18, which only takes us out to right here. And then we go over here for the max, and the max takes us out to 71. Okay, and that gives us then what our box and whisker with the median in the middle, interquartile range for the first quartile to the third, and then the minimum and the maximum gives us our 5-number summary of that data set. So these are the ways that we look to see it on how the graph is shaped. And this is a couple typical types of ways we can see that data in action on a graph.